So we didn't have a class last week.
Right.
I will share.
Oh,
I'll review a little bit what we did
okay.
to refresh our memories. Okay. So we've talked a lot about the absolute unity of creation, that everything exists because of a creative force. One of the ways we describe this creative force is the word of Hashem. We said that this is the main component of any object. It's the physical part that is ancillary, secondary.
Right.
Um, we said that the divine light is too strong for anything else to exist. It has to be curtailed by a force called Simtsum. The creative force is represented by Hashem's name Havaya. That's the part that's pushing, that's pumping the divine light forward. And then there's the force that curtails this is or tempers it, regulates it, is represented by the name Elohim. So you have Havaya, what we call Havaya, which is pushing the divine light forward. We have Elohim, which is trying to stop that flow. Imagine you have a pump that's pumping the water through the pipe or sluice, but then you have something that's blocking the water from going through. They're working they're working
In
against
tandem.
each other. But actually these two are working together because the name Elohim doesn't totally block the divine light. It curtails it and allows the right amount to come through. So the name Havaya, which is pushing the light forward, wants there should be creation. That's why it's pushing the light forward down the process. The Elohim also wants creation. The light has to be regulated. If the and curtailed. If the light is not curtailed, then creation couldn't happen. The light would overwhelm anything that they would like to create. So although we imagine these as two opposite forces, it's actually Chassidus teaches us it is one force. It's like one force that works to create. And then we said that if you're from the perspective of the light does not get diminished. From the perspective of creation, the light is diminished and curtailed. So now we have two perspectives of this absolute unity. Everything in the world is
Question.
one, is part of the oneness of God. And one is what we call um, the perspective from above. We call it Yehuda Ilah. That means the upper oneness. And that's the perspective from the light. From the perspective from the light, there is only the only thing that exists is the godly light. Then there is Yichud Tita, the lower unity, and this means from the perspective of creation. From the perspective of creation, we see that creation exists, but however, we know that everything is with godliness. It belongs to the absolute unity, but we do see how creation exists. So these are two different perspectives, and the first one, the absolute unity, where there is only divine light. This is called Shema Yisrael. This is expressed in the pasuk Shema Yisrael Shema Kinash Machad. Havaya is our God, is Elohim. The Havaya and Elohim, these two forces, the creative force and the curtailing force, are one and the same, echad, and then we have Baruch Shem Kvan Olam Vad, and in this is expressed the lower unity, that we do have a world, but that the world is just
Devoid of light.
is part of the divine light.
Right.
Um, Now we said also that we call Hashem our king. And who can get the title king? You have to have subjects. If you don't have subjects, you can't be a king.
Right.
For example, if you are if you want to be the king over animals, it doesn't work. Animals can't be your subject unless you're I forgot that guy's name. Not Rufus.
Caesar?
The
Is it
guy
Caesar?
in Madagascar.
Oh, Babar.
Who?
Babar.
That's his
The
name?
elephant. Babar no, the elephant. Not Babar. Babar
Okay.
the elephant. He's not a king? Yeah,
Who?
he did go from. I thought Babar were the elephant.
Not it was I know what he is. A little
Talking about the lynx or not the lynx,
I forgot what he is now. So
yeah, the
he's the
primate.
king over the animals. But you know, person can't be a king over animals. A person you could be some African dictator with 800 or 900 children. You can't be a king over them because they are children. So there has to be some distance between the king and the subjects. I think Idi Amin of Uganda, I think it said he had 70, 80 children. And I think Elon Musk is working, is competitive, putting up a competition there. So you got to have ordinary citizens to rule. So here too, if we want to, the term melech for Hashem, that Hashem is a king, can only be over creation, which is independent of the creative light, of the creative force. Again, in order to be called king, that has to be at a level of the divine light at which creation is independent. We have a rule, ein melech below am, that there is no such thing as a king if there are no people, if there's no nation.
Right.
Since Hashem is called our king, we must be independent of him to be considered his nation. And this is why we live generally, when we speak about Hasidus, we're living usually in the first of the stages of creation, Atzilus. We have 10 spheres in Atzilus, and it's only the lowest one that is called Malchus, kingship or royalty. Because there's nothing, until
Rule.
there, whatever exists, and it's the first stage of creation, but it's not independent enough to be called subjects of the king. So you can't have a king if they're not subjects. It's only when you get to the very last sphera of Atzilus, which is Malchus, that's called Malchus. That is the royalty or kingship. This function of king is seen in the last of the spheres, Malchus, which means kingship. The name of Hashem associated with Malchus is Adni. And you know what that is?
Right.
Ado
Right.
and then Noi. And
Right.
Adni means a chief or a master or a boss. Hashem is synonymous with the word Adon. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the name. Adni is Adon. Hashem is called Adon Kol Haaretz, the master of the entire world. And this name apparently is associated with Elohim as well. So, in order to be a king, the subjects have to be separate or independent. And this name, Adni, makes sure creation feels independent and not too close to the creative force. If creation does not feel independent, if it felt as connected to the creative force, it would cease to exist because the creative force would come on too strong and creation would be overwhelmed. And it would just pop. It just wouldn't be. So this is where we stopped. And I think that's at in the regular Tanya that looks like this. it's chapter 7 on page Pei Bays or 163 near the top. So here we're going to say that it's only that you can only have time and place at this thing. Time and place can only exist where we say where we're talking about melech, a king.
Right.
It goes together there. That this only where you can be independent enough to be considered a nation or subjects of a king. That's where you can suddenly have place, 3 dimensions, time, past, present, and future. But until then, these things do not exist. And so we're going to say that Hashem's name of his explicit name, what we commonly call the Shem HaMeforash, the explicit name, the name that describes Hashem of all the names of Hashem, the one that's closest to an accurate description of his essence, that's closest to his essence, is the name Yud, what we call Yud Ke Vav Ke, Yud and then Hey and then Vav and then Hey, which is connected to the Hebrew word for is. Exactly what it is, we don't know because we don't know the vowels. We've lost track of what the vowels are, and therefore we don't know exactly. But the word is connected with is, was, will be, or being, or be. So it's describing Hashem as just someone or something that exists, an entity that is, and that's it. Or he be um, in some vernacular.
Right.
So, and that is what this word is connected to. Now, the word haya, and that would be like what we commonly say haya. Haya means was. Hoveh means is, and yiyah means will be. And Hashem's name of the Yud Ke Vav Ke implies all three. So it's not tied to any tense. It's not tied to past tense, to present tense, or to future tense. It includes all three of them at the same time. So in other words, it's not bound by time as we know it. It's beyond. Hashem at this level where we call him Yud Ke Vav Ke exists beyond time. We said before that that this is the creative force that pumps forward, and this would be apparently this may be what we call Atzilus, maybe before Atzilus. It represents the creative force. But then when we have the curtailing force, that is Hashem already is a king, Adon, the name that's associated with Adon, the chief. And so over there, we would already have time and place. That's what we say in the next section. I'm on page 163, line 3. V'hine geder u'bechinas shem oilam. When we refer to something that is olam, olam literally means a world, but I translate it as a stage as one of the stages of creation, one of the 4 stages of creation. Neufel al bechinas makom bechinas man dafka. Then we can then it's only where we have olam, where we have something somewhere along this continuum of creation that we have makom and zman, we have place, 3 dimension, and time. Dafka bechinas makom hu mizrach hu ma'arav safan daram, ma'lo mata bechinas man avar havasid. That means that if we're talking about place, that we can have such a thing as east, west, north, south, up and down. 6, I guess the 6 directions. and it's where we can have time, which is past tense, present tense, and future tense. V'hinei kol b'chinas elu en lan shaychus b'midos hakdoshas al yenes. Ki'im b'midos malchus yisbarach levad. That so this idea, the dimensions, the physical dimensions, or time and space. So they really have no place, have no connection. They don't exist in the midos, the upper midos. That's the first 9 of the attributes, the spheres of Atzilus, of the first stage of creation. It's only when you get to the 10th sphera of Atzilus. That's called Malchus. Malchus, the usually translated as kingship or royalty. Then, only then you can say they call him a king. Now, you might say that he's a king as high up without as far as you can go, or as without any limit. As far down without any place to stop, without any end. So we're already using the words up and down. Even if we say up as far as you can go and down as far as you can go, up with no end and down with no end, just the fact that you can say up and down means to what we're talking about place over here. And the 4 directions, what we said before, east, west, north, and south. And so too with when we're talking about time. And that is, we have Hashem Melech, Hashem is the king, or Hashem rules. Hashem Malach, Hashem was the king, Hashem ruled. Hashem Yimloch Li'olam Vod, Hashem will be the king, Hashem will rule. Notice I said the word be. Hashem will be the king. Hashem was the king. Hashem is the king. We said before, was, is, will be. So these all imply time. Now, these 3 lines that we have, these 3 phrases, is not a pasuk anywhere. They're actually taken from different psukim. Hashem Melech is what we say in the davening in Yehi Chavod before Ashrei. Hashem Melech Olam Vod Avdu Goim Me'artzo. Hashem is the king forever and ever. And the nations are gone, are lost from his land. That's Hashem Melech. We say Hashem Malach. Hashem was the king. This is from the Tefillah LaMoshe. This is from the Tillim that was recited by Moshe, and from the chapter that we say every Friday. Hashem Malach Geus Lavesh. Hashem ruled. He garbed in Geus. He garbed in grandeur. And the last one, Hashem Yimloch, is from the Shira from the Az Yashir, the song that we sing at the sea. Hashem Yimloch Li'olam Va'ed. That Hashem will rule forever. So in some of our davening, we say we cherry pick these 3 phrases and we recite them as one. Hashem Melech, Hashem Malach, Hashem Yimloch. Hashem Yimloch. V'nimtza. But when we say that, we're already talking about temporal, about things that are connected with time.
Right.
The name Havaya is not connected with time. Havaya just means, it means was, it means is, it means will be. It means all 3 of them as one. In other words, not split up, not distinct from each other. But therefore, the name Yud Kevav Kevaya is above time. V'nimsa shachayis hamakom v'chayin chayis asman v'isavulsa me'an leis v'kiyumam kol zman kiyumam hu mamidas l'chus v'Hashem adnus baruch hu. So this creative force, the force that creates place, the force that creates time, the force that not only initiates their creation, but that maintains their creation. And we're talking about Me'ayin Liyesh, that from what
Nothing
appears
from
to
nothing.
us to be from what appears to us to be nothing, from something that is very beyond us and it's very high, it appears to us as nothing. The Yesh, what appears to us to be reality, and um, then to maintain their existence, calls man kiyumam for all time. It's continuous, it's constant. Where does this come from? It comes from Malchus. What the level that we call Malchus, kingship. The name of Hashem that's associated with this is the one that sounds like Adon, the boss, the master. Adon Kolaris, the boss of the master of the world, the boss of the world. And so all these things, this idea of Zman and Makam, time and place, they are connected with the 10th Sphira of Atzilus, with Malchus. Only there is where there is begins to be a creation that is independent enough of the creative force to be that it can be called subjects, and the divine energy, the creative force at that point can be called a king. So now it says that even though that the creative force, the light has been curtailed, not the creative force, I'm sorry, that the light has been curtailed, and we have now what feels to be an independent entity from godliness. Yet that is still united, it is still one with the creative force. I used to say, I don't know if it really applies, but that the fact that we're independent of the creative force is an optical illusion. Because really, the creative force is here constantly. As far as the creative force is concerned, there is no curtailment. And this is why we say that this is why we say that that creation is one with the creative force, with the divine light. I'm going to read inside now. We're in the middle of page 163. Ulefi shamidas malchus isbarach miucheres musas isbarach betachlis hayichud k'moish isbar. The This attribute, the 10th sphera, called malchus, this attribute of Hashem being a king is bound, is one with the essence of Hashem. Betachlis hayichud, with absolute unity. And as will be explained. Hilkach gam b'chinas hamakam v'azman b'telim b'mesius mamish. L'gabe mehusay v'atzmusay sparach. Therefore, even when we're talking about what's created, and we just said that in this point, we can start talking about place and time, but since it's one with the creative force, therefore, even time and place, are totally insignificant, or there's no sense of self. It's as if they don't exist in relation to the essence of the light. Kibitul ar hashemesh b'shemesh, as the light of the sun is null and void, is insignificant compared to the sun. And we're talking about when the light of the sun is, let's say, here, And over here, we're 93 million miles from the sun. Well, over here, we see the sunlight, and it's its own entity. But think about for a moment the light of the sun that exists within the sun before it leaves the sun. Over there, are you going to say, wow, the light here is very strong? No, you're going to say, talk about the sun. There's nothing to talk about in sunlight. What you're going to talk about is the sun. The sunlight over there only exists as the sun. It doesn't exist as an independent entity at all. And that's the same way the that's the same way that the creation is insignificant or doesn't exist compared to the creative force. V'zehu shiluv shem adnus b'shem havaya. And this is what is meant when we talk about the integration of the name of that is it sounds like Adon, and the name of Hashem, that's the essential name or explicit name that we said Yud Ke Vav Ke. So there's an integration there. And I should have explained that before. Let me go on and I'll explain what that means. Kishem Havaya Mara Shulamayla Min Azman. When we use Hashem's name Yud Ke Vav Ke, the essential name, an essential meaning that this is the closest thing we have to describe God's essence, essential essence of God. So this is seen by the name Yud Ke Vav Ke, because as it said before, which is above, beyond time. That the name Yud Ke Vav Ke Havaya means was, is, and will be, but all together, all at once. So obviously, there is no time, or there is a time, but it's all just one
Same point.
point, whatever that means. V'chein l'mayla v'chenas makom, and Yud Kei Vav Kei is also beyond place. Kihu mahava tamid es kol b'chenas makom kulei mamala ad lamata v'dal sitrin, because the because this name of Yud Kei Vav Kei, the essential name, it creates place. It's creating place, so it can't be bound by any place, and it had to exist before place existed, and so and uh, and so therefore the Yud Kei Vav Kei represents the creation process or the long this process where there is no time and place, and there are no subjects. The name Adon, the full name of Hashem, it's related to Adon. Is where there are subjects because he has to be a king at that level. So there are subjects. So there is time and place already existing. So the what we say that the even the creation doesn't is swallowed up, so to speak, by the absolute unity. Like the light of the sun that is not with when it as it exists within the sun has no existence of its own. And so this is the integration of the two names of Hashem. I'm going to explain what that means. If you've ever used a Sephardic siddur, you may have seen that they print, it'll say Baruch Atah Hashem, let's say for the brachas in Shmon Esrei, Hakel HaKadosh, Magen Avraham. And over there, it'll say for Hashem, it'll just have two yuds, Yud Yud. Yud Yud is
Right.
not really Hashem's name. Yud Yud is a placeholder. It's a symbol for Hashem's name. Mallory and I we learned about the symbol. We learned about the symbol called the pilcrow,
Silkrow, right.
right? The pilcrow and the
Right.
silkrow,
Right. And the
sorry,
silver.
which ordinary people might just call wingdings. But we learned they have names. Pilcrow is the symbol for is the wingding or a symbol for a new paragraph. The silkrow is the symbol that for a section, it's a double S. And we thank Lindsay Katsir for supplying that information for
Yes.
us.
Right. Right.
So, um, so the so if you Yud Yud is just a it's just a symbol of Hashem's name Yud Kei Vav Kei. And then in this often in Sephardic Siddur, it'll have parentheses and it'll show the 8 letters, the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey of one of Hashem's names, and the Aleph and the Dalet and the Nun and the Yud of another of Hashem's names. And it'll have them, but it'll have all 8 letters in different orders. And so when we talk about the integration of the Adon name within Havaya, then we take the first letter of Yud Ke Vav Ke, the Yud, and then the first letter of the name Adon, the Aleph. Then we take the second letter of Yud Ke Vav Ke, the Hey, and the second letter of the other name of Adni, and that's a Dalid, and so on. So what we have is Yud, then Aleph, then Hey, then Dalid, then Vav,
Okay.
then
The
Nun,
job.
then
Right.
Hey, and Yud. And that is
Right.
the integration, the shiluv, the integration of the name
Oh
Adni
my
within
goodness,
Yud Ke Vav.
pretty.
Sometimes it'll talk about the shiluv, the integration of the name Havaya within Adni. And then it's the letters of Adni come first. So it's Aleph from Adni, then Yud from Yud Ke Vav Ke, then Dalit from Adni, and the second letter of Yud Ke Vav Ke of the Hey, and then Nun and Vav, and then Yud and the final Hey. So the bottom line here is what it's saying is that as far as that there is an absolute unity that exists between the creative force and creation, between what's represented by the name Yud Ke Vav Ke and what's represented by the name of Aleph Daled Nun Yud. And there's an absolute unity as far as the Yud Ke Vav Ke, the creative force, is concerned. The physical world doesn't exist or is insignificant. It doesn't take away anything from the absolute unity of the divine light, of the divine energy. Any questions, comments, feedback? Now's your chance. My question is, where's my bookmark? All right. Okay. If we're all done, thank you guys. Okay, let's go here.